Hello, welcome to the weekly Main Street Media TV High School Football Preview Show. The Main Street Media sports editors and sports writers on our show each week will be on the ground at the games in your coverage areas, which means if you're seeing this in Middle Tennessee, we'll probably be talking about your favorite school. And don't forget to pick up your local Main Street Media of Tennessee newspaper each week for full reports and photographs of your team's games. We will be making our way across Middle Tennessee to find out what is coming up for all our local teams this week. To find out if your community is served by a Main Street Media of Tennessee newspaper, go to mainstreetmediatn.com. And when you find your local newspaper, maybe consider signing up for a subscription so you don't miss any of the local news, sports, and more your local newspaper has lined up for you each week. Well, it's time to get started. And David Wilson over in East Middle Tennessee is up first.
Hey everybody, this is David Wilson, East Middle Regional Sports Editor for Main Street Preps, here to give you a quick preview of all the Week 2 games across the Mid-State's East Middle region. We'll start things off on the east side of the Nashville area. We'll start off in Wilson County for the Week 2 games up in those neck of the woods. We'll kick things off with Friendship Christian. The 1-0 Commanders making the trip down to Fayetteville on Friday night to face the Tigers down in Lincoln County. Friendship Christian got off to a good start last week in their home opener with a 34-7 victory over Trousdale County. Jaden McGowan, 17 carries for 223 yards and 4 touchdowns. Our Wilson County Player of the Week. He will look to continue that pace, I guess, so far alongside transferred quarterback Blake Waldorf. Second game in the matchup of across Wilson County. A really good game to look forward to. It's the Page Patriots, who are 1-0 in the year, traveling to the Hill to face the Green Hill Hawks, who are also 1-0. Both teams coming off big wins last week. Page defeating Giles County 47-34, and then the Green Hill Hawks picking up a 38-21 win over Beach. Another test for Josh Crouch and the Hawks as they welcome in a perennial state title contender in Class 5A. The Patriots have been to 4 straight Blue Cross Bowls and come up in the Cinderella position 4 consecutive years. Should be a nice matchup on the Hill Friday night. Out in Lebanon, it should be a historic and eventful night for the Lebanon Blue Devils, as not only have their home opener on Friday, but they'll be honoring one of their very own and our former colleague, Tommy Bryant. They'll be hosting the Siegel Stars. Both teams 1-0 on the year. Siegel picked up a big win last week over Cookeville, who is a very familiar foe to Lebanon, and then the Blue Devils obviously went down on the road last week and got a monumental win over Nolensville to spoil Scott Stidham's coaching debut down there. Should be a lot of running the football in that matchup. Looking forward to that one. Another matchup between two teams kind of limping into Week 2 already. It's the Beach Bucks, who we mentioned losing to Green Hill last week on the Thursday night edition of the Friday Night Rivals Game of the Week. And it's the Mount Juliet Golden Bears, who lost last week to Antioch 24-2. Those two are going to meet at the Bear Den on Friday night between two teams both looking to pick up their first win of the season. Mount Juliet Christian, who lost to Joe Burns last week 42-7, they are traveling to East Tennessee to face Concord Christian. That's a program playing its first varsity season since 2018, led by former Tennessee Vol quarterback Steve Matthews. Continuing on in Wilson County, it's Watertown, who's 0-1 in the year. They lost their home opener last week to Smith County. They're traveling out to face a familiar rival. It's the Gordonsville Tigers out in Smith County. Two really great programs, schools, and communities getting together on Friday night. And then rounding out the Wilson County slate, it's Wilson Central capping its 2-game homestand to start the year. They face the Northwest Vikings out of the Clarksville area. Wilson Central picked up a big win, 33-14 over Cane Ridge last week, rushed for over 334 yards on the ground. They'll look to continue that this week. Moving to Rutherford County. Here's the slate for Week 2 down in the Murfreesboro area. It's Blackman hosting Cane Ridge on Thursday night. Blackman picking up a big win over Clarksville last week. Continuing the Thursday slate, it's Community traveling to Floyd Walker to face his Eagleville football team. Should be a good one down there. Also, Cannon County facing PCA on Thursday night. That PCA picked up the 28-21 win over Eagleville last week. So PCA starting the year 1-0, looking to go 2-0. On the Friday night slate, it's Dixon County traveling to Laverne. It's Stratford traveling to Stewart's Creek. Father Ryan making the trip to Murfreesboro to face Riverdale, led by former Tennessee Titan quarterback and former LSU great Zach Mettenberger. So the Fighting Irish heading down to the Murfreesboro area. It's Grace Christian Franklin traveling to MTCS. It's Smyrna making the trip up to Sumner County to face Hendersonville. It's Rockville also making the trip up to the Hendersonville area to face Station Camp. And then it's Oakland making the trip up to Kentucky. They'll be facing Huntington out of West Virginia up in Kentucky. So the Patriots and Kevin Creasy coming off a big win last week against CPA and its home opener, making the trip to an out-of-state trip to Kentucky for its Week 2 opponent. So that's a quick preview of Week 2 across Murfreesboro area, Rutherford County, and Wilson County. Looking forward to talking to you guys on the wrap-up next week.
Thanks, David. In North Central Middle Tennessee, Blaine Kellar is ready to go.
North Central Regional Sports Editor Blaine Kellar welcoming you to Week 2 of the Tennessee High School football season. Here to give you some games to look forward to in Sumner County, as well as what we will have coverage of in Davidson and Williamson for high school football. You can catch all of our coverage on MainStreetPreps.com and specifically in the Gallatin News, Hendersonville Standard, Portland Sun, and Main Street Nashville. As always, we will start in Sumner County. The Beach Buccaneers are looking to flip the script after a Week 1 loss to Green Hill. They'll travel back to Wilson County and take on the Mount Juliet Golden Bears, who also struggled in their first game falling to Antioch, pair of winless teams in Wilson County. But it should be a fun game nonetheless between the Buccaneers and the Bears. Gallatin looks to go to 2-0 when they travel to Franklin, taking on the Williamson County Admirals led by Josh Atkins, a former Green Wave assistant. Gallatin impressed in its first week, winning big against rival Hendersonville. Franklin shut out Laverne 20-0. A pair of unbeatens in Week 2 in Williamson County. Also on the docket is JP2, another team looking to go 2-0. They travel to East Robertson, the Knights do, taking on Kason Young and Zach Groves. That tandem helped down Liberty Creek in overtime a week ago. Rock Batten and the Knights of JP2 trying to go to JP2-0. How about Liberty Creek and Portland, an intra-county matchup? That one of the more interesting matchups in the Sumner County area for Week 2. Portland won big against White House in its first game. Liberty Creek, as I mentioned, rallied but fell late to East Robertson at home in overtime. The Wolves and Panthers are going to kick it off in Gallatin. Station Camp takes on Rockvale, led by new coach James Counts, after a big win against Allen County Scottsville in Bowling Green, Kentucky a week ago. Westmoreland going up against the defending state champion Tigers of Macon County. It'll be a tall task for new coach Ryan Harris as he tries to get his team up off the mat following a 26-6 loss to Greenwood in Week 1. That game also in Bowling Green with Station Camp. Rounding out the schedule in Sumner is White House traveling 70 miles southeast, looking for their first win of the season. They'll go up against DeKalb County. All of these games on Friday. Most a 7 o'clock start. Gallatin taking on Franklin at 7:30. With that out of the way, here's what we'll have coverage of in Davidson and Williamson counties. You can find this on Main Street Nashville as well as MainStreetPreps.com. Brentwood and Brentwood Academy go up against one another. It's been a fun little rivalry in the past couple of years. A pair of new quarterbacks with Cruz Jenkins and potentially Gavin Strang making his debut for the Bruins. If not, it'll be receiver turned quarterback Parker Emerson. Brentwood 1-0 after a win against Smyrna a week ago. Brentwood Academy also unbeaten through the first week. They defeated Lawson. We'll have coverage of CPA and Pearl Cone with a pair of new jerseys for both sides between the private school in Williamson County and the Firebirds of Davidson County. CPA and Pearl Cone will be a fun one to watch. And then a pair of college-bound quarterbacks going up against one another. Taylor Hasselback of Ensworth and Jared Curtis of Nashville Christian, both trying to go 2-0. Eagles host Ensworth on Friday night. We'll kick it back to you guys. That's what you can look forward to of our coverage in the North Central region for Main Street Preps. I'm Blaine Kellar.
Thanks, Blaine. There's still a lot more previews coming up this week, but first we need to stop and hear from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
He shoots, and he scores!
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
Welcome back. It's time to head down south to Maurice Patton in southern Middle Tennessee.
Hey, week 2 gets started on Thursday night down here in southern Middle Tennessee as Zion Christian travels to Mount Pleasant. Short trip for the Eagles, a little shorter than last week's when they returned to TSSAA competition after spending the last 4 years playing 8-man football, but it was a tough return for the Eagles as they went over to Lewis County, took a 54-0 loss over at Hohenwald. Mount Pleasant, meanwhile, coming off a big 41-0 win at Battle Creek as the Grizzlies were making their varsity debut. So Zion Christian gave up a bunch. Mount Pleasant scored a bunch. Could be a long night for the visiting Eagles Thursday night when they go to Mount Pleasant in this neighborhood rivalry here. Columbia Academy goes up I-65 on Friday, taking on Battleground Academy in a Division II AA Middle Region matchup. It's a matchup of two teams that finished as state runners-up a year ago. Columbia Academy finishing second in Division IIA, falling to Nashville Christian in the Blue Cross Bowl championship game down in Chat. Again, bumping up to D2AA this time around. Battleground Academy fell to CPA in the D2AA championship game in Chattanooga. Both these teams coming in at 1-0. Columbia Academy rallying late to defeat Fayetteville 36-25. Battleground Academy winning 48-13 over Jackson Prep out of Mississippi. So big region matchup here in week 2 as Columbia Academy goes to Battleground Academy. Another Murray County rivalry as Battle Creek travels to Columbia Central. Both these teams coming in 0-1. Battle Creek again having fallen to Mount Pleasant in week 1 in their opener at home. Columbia Academy falling to Dixon County 27-17. Gave up a couple of big plays in special teams. So the Lions, we'll see if they have shored that facet of their game up this Friday night again when Battle Creek comes to town. Nolensville, coming off a loss to Lebanon, travels to Summit. The Spartans winning 13-0 over at Spring Hill to open the season. Again, Nolensville coming in 0-1 after that loss. Summit 1-0. Summit stunned the Knights last year late in the regular season. So Nolo will have a little bit of a score to settle coming into Spring Hill this time around. Finally, in Williamson County, it's Lincoln County coming to Independence. Both the Falcons and the Eagles 1-0. Lincoln County coming off a big win over Marshall County in week 1. Independence going to Rockvale and winning in Scott Blade's return to the Eagle Helm. All Raiders all the time down in Linville Friday night. Spring Hill goes to Richland. Both these teams coming off losses in week 1. Spring Hill again falling to Summit 13-0. Richland, a little bit of a surprise as they fell at Wayne County 16-14. So tough loss for the Raiders coming off that state quarterfinal berth last year. For the Richland Raiders, the host Raiders. How's that? They'll be trying to get back on the horse against the visiting Raiders, trying to get even here again after that shutout loss to Summit under new coach Josh Taylor. At the Brickyard, Henry County comes in. It's a second set of Patriots coming to Pulaski in as many weeks following Giles County's loss to Page 47-34 in week 1. Henry County dropped a tough one 30-28 to Haywood in Paris. So both these teams 0-1. Henry County, another traditional 5A power. Giles County finding out a lot about themselves early on in this one, taking on the 4-time Class 5A runners up in Page a week ago, and now getting, again, a traditionally tough Henry County team coming to the Brickyard on Friday night. Wayne County, we talked about their win over Richland. They come in 1-0 as they travel to Summertown, helping the Eagles open their new facility there in North Lawrence County. Again, Summertown 0-1 after a 35-14 loss to Lawrence County at Lawrence County last week. But it should be an exciting Friday night again as the Eagles christen their new stadium against visiting 1-0 Wayne County. And finally, another in-county matchup as Lawrence County goes to Loretto. Lawrence County 1-0 coming off that win over Summertown. Loretto 0-1 after losing to Cornersville a week ago. Got the sophomore quarterback going at it again for Loretto, and see how much he improves from week 1 to week 2. Again, Lawrence County with a big win over Summertown this past week. And another rivalry here between the Wildcats and the host Mustangs. To see who's going to win all these ball games, be sure and check out Mostradamus at MainStreetMurray.com, thePulaskiCitizen.com, and LawrenceCountyAdvocate.net. All of his picks are there for week 2. That'll do it from Southern Middle Tennessee. There we go. I'm Maurice Patton. We'll see y'all next week.
Thanks, Maurice. Up next is Calvin White. He previews your teams in Northwest Middle Tennessee.
Hello, everybody. This is Calvin White, Northwest Regional Sports Editor for Main Street Preps, Sports Editor for Main Street Clarksville, the Robertson County Connection, and the Houston County Herald. Here to give you a quick preview of all of the Week 2 high school football action in the Northwest region. Starting in Montgomery County, Clarksville is on the road at Springfield. That game will be the 102nd edition of the Battle for the Bridge. Rossview is on the road at Kirkwood. Kirkwood took last year's meeting 12-3 at Rossview. West Creek is on the road at Northeast. Northwest is on the road against Wilson Central. Montgomery Central is on the road against East Hickman. And Clarksville Academy is on the road at Fort Campbell. That game will be on Thursday. And Kenwood is on the road against White House Heritage. Moving over to Robertson County, like I mentioned a moment ago, Springfield is hosting Clarksville, and White House Heritage is hosting Kenwood. East Robertson, the Indians are hosting JP2 and first-year head coach Rock Batten. Greenbrier is at home against Sycamore. Joe Burns, the Red Devils are traveling to Ballard Memorial up in Kentucky. White House and first-year head coach Atlee Pond are on the road at DeKalb County. And then finally in Robertson County, Innovation Academy is on the road against Grundy County. And wrapping up our Northwest Region High School football preview is Houston County. The Fighting Irish are on the road against Lewis County. That'll do it for all of our previews for our Week 2 action in the Northwest region of our Main Street Preps coverage. I'm Calvin White, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you, Calvin. Okay, now we've covered a lot of territory so far, but we're not quite done, so stay right there and we'll be back to finish up right after this.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
When the arena lights dim for a concert, or when the crowd becomes one at a big game, you can almost feel like you're the biggest fan. But who's your biggest fan? It's the person that will get you home safely after a night of drinking. It's the person who looks out for your life to make sure you leave the stadium with someone sober. This could be a designated driver or someone who offers to get you a ride share. Because in Tennessee, fans don't let fans drive drunk. Brought to you by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office, a division of the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security.
All right, we are back, and West Middle Tennessee is up next, so let's jump on over to Casey Patrick.
Hi, how are y'all? My name's Casey Patrick. I'm a sports reporter for the Dixon Post, Cheatham County Exchange, and the Hickman County Times. I'm going to give y'all a quick rundown on Friday night's action. We've got some football games coming up. We'll start over in the Dixon area. The Dixon County Cougars are 1-0 after defeating Columbia last week by 10 points, 27-17. They're going to be on the road. They're heading to Laverne, and Laverne is 0-1 after falling in week 1 to Franklin 20-0. Creekwood is also on the road. Creekwood's going to be at Lawson. Creekwood lost 43-36 last week to Forest. Lawson lost 45-7 last week to Brentwood Academy. So both teams coming in 0-1. And then over at Hickman, Hickman County is hosting Waverly Central. Of course, Hickman County 1-0 after a big 39-14 win over Harpeth. Good for the Bulldogs. They're hosting Waverly Central, who's also 1-0. Waverly Central was 0-10 last year. They defeated McEwen 28-7 in week 1 to go to get their first win this year. So good for the Tigers as well. So that could be a fun matchup out there in Centerville. And also the last Hickman matchup is Montgomery Central at East Hickman. That'll be the game I'm at on Friday. Montgomery Central's 0-1 on the year. They lost 13-6 to Sycamore in week 1. And East Hickman's 0-1 after losing 47-18 to Fairview in week 1. So, like I said, that's the game I'll be at Friday. I'll be at East Hickman. Y'all stay safe out there Friday and have a good evening.
Thanks, Casey. Well, we'll finish up this week with more from West Middle Tennessee and Wade Neely.
What's up, folks? Wade Neely here, sports editor for your counties over in Hickman, Dixon, but primarily our focus today is going to be on Cheatham County, and it's time for a week 2 preview of your high school football season. Mixed bag last week. We saw some disappointing efforts and some disappointing results for 2 of our teams. We saw a gritty, hard-fought victory for one of our teams, but all 3 are right back to the gridiron coming up on Friday night, and I'm excited to break things down as we tap into it here in our week 2 preview. We will start with Sycamore, who did pick up that victory last week. Wasn't the prettiest, wasn't the flashiest, but Coach Harrison and the Eagles pick up a 13-6 win versus Montgomery Central. Hicks Hunter with 2 touchdowns in that game, and Sycamore grinding out a 13-6 win. That was last week. This week is going to be just as challenging as they hit the road to Greenbrier to take on the Bobcats. That is going to be a big showdown for Sycamore, considering they are on the road. They were tested a little bit offensively, but they also maybe found a lot about their resolve after, again, a 13-6 victory. So should be a fun matchup when Sycamore goes to Greenbrier this week. Elsewhere, we've got Harpeth, who is reeling a little bit after their week 1 whooping at the hands of Hickman County. Coach Moorhead told me after that game, we just flat out didn't play well. We just flat out didn't coach well in that game. The good news for Harpeth, as they get ready to host McEwen this Friday night, is they're probably not going to have 2 subpar efforts in terms of execution with the team and with the coaching staff. It should be a fun matchup. I think Harpeth will play much better. I know McEwen is a good team in their own right, but I think Harpeth is going to be a big improvement. Coach Moorhead even also mentioned, sometimes the biggest leap comes from week 1 into week 2. He's going to certainly hope that is true as, again, his Indians host the Warriors of McEwen coming up on Friday. Finally, we close. Cheatham County is hosting Glencliff. I'll be on hand for this one. Should be a big showdown on Friday. And if nothing else, Cheatham County and Coach Halstead, number 1, they're looking for a big win, their first win of the season after they were defeated on the road down in War Trace, taking on Cascade. But a chance to celebrate their new stadium and a chance to just kind of stretch your legs and get back at home after every game was on the road last year. But the stadium is fully renovated. The renovations are out of this world, and the vibes will be off the charts as Cheatham County hosts Glencliff. All 3 of your kickoffs come your way at 7 p.m. If you miss any of them, you can read about them in next week's Cheatham County Exchange. You can also read them on our website at the Cheatham County Exchange, as well as at mainstreetpreps.com. Casey Patrick has got you covered for previews of our Dixon and our Hickman County teams. So for now, Wade Neely saying so long.
And that does it for this week's high school football preview show. Did you know that Wade and Casey are the broadcast team for Main Street Media Radio's Thursday night game of the week? Well, they take their talents on the road to a different high school stadium each Thursday, so watch and listen for them at your school soon. Their broadcasts are streamed on our paper's social media pages at mainstreetmediaradio.com and on the Main Street Media TV app. Pretty much anywhere you can see this show. And don't forget that Main Street Media TV has a lot of great high school, college, and professional football-based shows lined up for you this season. Make sure you keep an eye on our local newspaper's social media pages or download the Main Street Media TV app where you can catch all our great programming every single day. Also, don't miss our weekly high school football wrap-up show with these same sports editors and writers who are covering your school's teams every week. The wrap-up show is scheduled for every Tuesday at 1 p.m. during high school football season. I hope you go out and find a game in your area Friday night. We'll see you right back here next Thursday with the high school football preview show on Main Street Media TV.